Governor Haslam needs no lengthy introduction, so I'm not going to give a lengthy one. But I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, it was after we had been in office for about a month. Every member of the cabinet received a copy of a book called Extreme Government Makeover by Ken Miller. And the fact that every cabinet member was given that book was a pretty good indication that Governor Haslam did not intend to conduct business as usual. And frankly, his creation of the Public Safety Subcabinet is an example of that. And it's an example that he had actually been thinking about before he was even elected. What he wanted was a common, unified approach to tackling crime so that we could break down the silos and have every department and every agency of the executive branch of state government on the same page, moving in the same direction. And frankly, that had a lot of appeal to me when he asked me to take on this job. I will say that I think that concept that the governor had is working better probably than either one of us thought it would. What's happened is that this subcabinet has become a real team effort, and we have become good friends in the process. We're all trying to move the ball down the field in the same direction. And it's really Governor Haslam's vision of doing things in a different way that has helped make this happen. So with that, I'm going to ask our Governor, Bill Haslam, to come forward to make some welcoming remarks. Then he's going to come back in a few minutes to make some additional remarks. But please welcome Governor Haslam.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. He was very charitable when he said when I asked him to join. The truth is, I begged him. He kept finding other reasons, other reasons not to come, and I kept begging him, and I'm glad he did. You know, I'm probably the only person in this room that can appreciate who all is in this room. One of the advantages to Governor is you spend your time all over the state, and as I look here, I see people literally from every corner of the state who are involved in some of the very best work we're doing. The Commissioner's right. We wanted to take a whole different approach, not just to running state government, but to attacking the problems around public safety. And this room is a reflection of that. I think there's over 400 people. If you look around, you see people, obviously a lot of law enforcement folks from sheriff's departments and police departments and other agencies around the state. But we also are broadening that because we realize public safety is more than just law enforcement. So we have mental health professionals here, healthcare professionals here, folks from economic development, people from education, people from the judicial system, because we realize it's not just about how do we do a better job of policing bad behavior. We need a whole different approach, and that's why I'm also thrilled to see so many district attorneys from around the state here, because it is all part of that complex puzzle. I did ask Commissioner Givens to approach this differently when we came, to approach the whole department, to say, you have free reign to pull in whoever you need from our cabinet to come up with the right strategy, and we're going to talk about that some more in a second, but that reflects what we're trying to do. So if you ask me, so you know, what are your big objectives as governor? Obviously, the first one is all about the it's all about the safety and welfare of our citizens. There's now almost 6.5 million Tennesseans by the last census that was just done, and that's our primary job is the safety of those 6.5 million. But then after that, we're concerned obviously about their quality of life. And that means everything from providing great schools to making certain that there are jobs available. And there is a really tight link between economic development and public safety. It's why I've asked our Commissioner of Economic Development, Bill Haggerty, to be with us today. One of my key goals in the state is to make Tennessee the very best place in the Southeast for high-quality jobs. And when we're out competing, and you do compete, other states are doing the same thing we're doing. They're working hard to bring good jobs to their areas. A lot of things come into play, from taxes to environment to quality of education, but there's no doubt that the safety is one of the key issues when we're recruiting. That's why I asked Commissioner Bill Haggerty, who who is with us this morning. And Commissioner, if you'd come up and give us a brief view of that connection, I would be very grateful. Commissioner Bill Hagerty of our Commissioner of Economic Community Development.
Thank you, Governor and Commissioner Gibbons. It really is an honor to be here today and take part in this incredibly important conversation. And allow me first to start off by taking off my hat as a commissioner and speaking to you as a citizen, as a Tennessean. I'm the father of 4 young children. It really means a lot to know that what each of you do is making our community safer. It makes a real difference to me as a citizen. And I want you to know that I have a deep appreciation and respect for public service. And what each of you do is ultimately the highest form of public service. You take risks every day so that the rest of us can be safe. So thank you indeed very much for what you do to protect and serve Tennesseans. As the Governor mentioned, public safety can indeed impact our economic environment and the climate for doing business. So I'm pleased to talk with you today a bit about how that factors into recruiting companies and recruiting job growth in Tennessee. There are many different factors that go into creating the kind of business environment where the private sector can thrive. Governor Haslam has spoken frequently this past year on the need for better workforce readiness and the importance of post-secondary education and training our workforce. My department is the Chief Marketing Office of the state, working with existing Tennessee companies and businesses across the country and across the globe to attract them to locate or expand here in Tennessee. We sell the state's business climate. We are a right-to-work state without a state income tax. We have a world-class infrastructure. We're at the forefront of public education reform. Our regulatory climate is business-friendly. We have the lowest debt per capita and the best balance sheet of any state in the nation. And our state government runs on a surplus, not on a deficit. Importantly, we also have a governor that understands business at a very deep level, and a terrific legislature that works with Governor Haslam to ensure that Tennessee has the best business climate possible. But none of that matters if Tennessee streets are not safe. Businesses are not just interested in the taxes that they'll pay when they choose to expand or relocate. They're not solely interested in the incentive dollars that our department might provide. In this day and age of fierce competition between states, we're really competing for the most skilled workers. Companies want to know that those workers have a safe climate in which to work. Quality of life issues are a very important factor when a company decides to relocate or expand in Tennessee. Business leaders want to know about the kind of schools that they have access to, about the type of medical care that's available in the community. They want to understand about a community's cultural attractions, its park systems, its shopping, its youth sports, religious worship opportunities, and many other variables that will help them decide not only will they make money in Tennessee, but long-term will their valued employees be happy here. If the employees aren't content and focused, a company may not be successful. And a major part of that quality life equation is public safety. Are our streets safe? Will a company's employees feel safe in Tennessee? Companies who expand or locate here are very likely to invest a great deal of capital in the state, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. In addition to the safety of their employees, a company also wants to make sure that their investment, their physical property, is safe and out of harm's way. I'm happy to report that overall, our state's reputation among the global business community is very strong when it comes to public safety. The safety of our communities is not an obstacle when my team recruits companies to come to this state. However, it is always something that companies will be interested in. And if allowed to suffer or worsen in any way, public safety and unchecked crime would become a liability for Tennessee in the global business community. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do to ensure that Tennessee remains at the fore, that we remain the most competitive state in the Southeast, and do everything that we can to support Governor Haslam's goal of making Tennessee the #1 state for high-quality jobs in the Southeast. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, Commissioner Gibbons, for having me. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. As Commissioner Gibbons said, when he came, I asked him to chair our public safety working group, which included some of the obvious ones: Safety and Homeland Security, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Corrections. But for reasons that I think will become increasingly obvious as we spend the day together, it also included the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, the Department of Health, and the Department of Children's Services. TBI Director Mark Gwynn and Commissioner Gibbons are now going to present an overview of the safety plan, and then most importantly, the goal indicators. We come from the school where if you want to get something done, you measure it, and what gets measured is what ultimately gets done. So I'm going to ask Director Gwynn to come up and present that. Thanks, Director.
Thank you, Governor. You have these numbers, statistics in your packet, and we're not going to go through all of them. This is just a quick snapshot of where we think crime is within the state of Tennessee. One particular statistic, though, I would ask you to look at that concerns Commissioner Gibbons and the Governor and I, is that 5.8% increase in aggravated assaults, and we'll talk about that more as I go through the slides. First slide here is the Group A crimes, and that's most of the 46 categories of our major crimes. You're going to see that there's an 8.2% decrease over base year 2010 and a 6.7% decrease over 2011. Now, the 2012 numbers that you'll see on these slides are from January to October of 2012. The next, meth lab seizures. We are not seeing any significant decrease in meth lab seizures. Now, I will point to the fact that in 2011, between March and June of 2011, we lost our funding from DEA for cleanup. So I think that's why that number is lower than probably what it would have been. But as you can see in 2012, from January to October, we're already above that 2011 number, which tells us that probably we'll have to take another look at the tracking system to see if it's really working at the level we wanted it to, and if not, we may have to come back and look at some other remedy to try and decrease meth lab seizures. Reported major crimes against person. As we talked about before, and you see there's a 1.9% increase over base year 2010, a 3.5% increase over 2011. We believe the aggravated assault numbers are driving this. Commissioner Gibbons and I believe that. And out of that aggravated assault, as we have went across the state and talked to a lot of local law enforcement officials, we think that the proliferation of the gang activity within the state is driving that aggravated assault number, and this number here, crimes against persons, up. We don't have any statistical proof that we can give you right now, but I can promise you if you talk to the local law enforcement in West Tennessee and the Jackson area and other parts, Chattanooga, they will tell you that they've seen a proliferation in crimes involving gangs, and even in the Columbia area. So we think that's what's causing that. Domestic violence, we've seen a decrease within that number. We really don't have an explanation for that. We're waiting. There was some new legislation that Commissioner Gibbons will probably discuss later on involving domestic violence. So we're hoping that number will continue to decrease. And now I'll turn it over to the Commissioner.
All of these slides are in your packet. This slide, I think, warrants a little explanation. First of all, all of the jurisdictions across the country, states and cities, report their crime data to the FBI, and each year the FBI comes out with those crime statistics. It is a fact that Tennessee and the cities and counties in Tennessee do a much better job of reporting than many jurisdictions in this country. In fact, Director Gwynn feels that we do a better job than most other jurisdictions in this country. We have what is called the TIBER system, and all of you representing cities and counties across the state know what that is. You submit that information to the TBI. The TBI in turn transmits that information to the FBI. We have a 95% compliance with this reporting system by the various cities and counties across Tennessee. So we have a very good reporting system. I'll give one example of how other jurisdictions are not as good. The city of Chicago. The FBI does not accept the city of Chicago's methodology in determining the number of forcible rapes. Therefore, the FBI has decided not to include any violent crime figure for the city of Chicago. So when you look at the various rankings of cities across the country in terms of their crime rate, you will never see Chicago because they're just not included. And obviously when you look at rankings of states and their crime rates, the lack of the Chicago data affects the ranking of Illinois, obviously. So I use that as just one example. Having said that, when you look at the national crime rates and Tennessee crime rates, we do believe that in a general sense, it lets you know where we stand. But we urge you not to put too much stock in these rankings that come out because it's not a perfect system whatsoever. If you, with those explanations, if you'll look at this chart, and again it's in your packet as well, you will see that in Tennessee, which is reflected by the red bars, violent crime was down slightly in 2011 compared to 2010, as Director Gwynn just pointed out a few minutes ago. So our state stats are very compatible with the national stats on that. But you will also see that our violent crime rate based on this is substantially above the national average. Again, don't put too much stock in the exact figures, but it gives us a general picture of where we are. So the bottom line is we do have a violent crime rate that is higher than the national average. We're not where we need to be, and all of us acknowledge that, which is exactly why we have the Governor's Public Safety Action Plan. This chart shows the property crime rate, and again, the red bars are the Tennessee rate, the green bars the national rate. Again, don't put too much stock in the exact figures, but what it does show is that our property crime rate is above the national average. You'll also see, though, that 2011 compared to 2010, our reported property crimes are down. This chart deals with the number of children removed from homes due to substance abuse being a contributing factor. So far this year, and this is through September of this year, we've had 1,802 children removed from homes due to substance abuse being a factor. For the entire year of 2010, we had 1,399. For the entire year of 2011, we had 1,596. So this is not a good trend. In the briefing you're going to have on meth in a few minutes, Tommy Farmer, I think, is going to point out that actually children removed from homes due to meth, that figure has gone down. So there are other factors here, maybe prescription drugs, other factors involved in this increase. This chart shows the number of drug overdose deaths in Tennessee for 2010 and 2011. And you can see for both years it's over 1,000. Commissioner Dreisner will be briefing you this afternoon on the problem prescription drug abuse, along with Commissioner Barney. I think it's safe to say that Commissioner Dreister will point out that if anything, these figures understate the problem in Tennessee, because we have a number of jurisdictions that don't do as good a job as others in reporting this. This chart shows the number of traffic fatalities due to substance abuse. Commissioner Schroer, the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, I think has done a great thing by putting up on the message boards across the state the number of traffic fatalities. So it's got a lot of talk going around the state about this, which I think is a good thing. Year after year, what we're seeing in Tennessee is about a third of all traffic fatalities involve individuals driving under the influence, about a third. And that appears to be holding up this year. You'll see for the last 2 years, it was close to 300 in 2010, 266 in 2011. The data for 2012 is a couple of weeks out of date, but as of sometime in November, it was 255. Again, if you look at it, it's around 30% of the total number of traffic fatalities that involve some substance abuse. This chart deals with a problem that we have in Tennessee with the number of repeat offenders, those individuals who get out of prison and who end up right back in prison. We have a recidivism rate that is around 45%, 46 in 2010, 44 in 2011. Recidivism is defined as inmates who are reconvicted within 3 years of the year in which they were released from incarceration or supervision. So for example, the 2010 figure there you see 46.4%. That is the percentage of inmates released in 2007 who have been reconvicted by the end of 2010. And finally, we have another way of measuring that, and that is the return rate. And this is the number of inmates returning to the correctional system in a calendar year who had been released the previous year. So for example, so far in 2012, of those inmates released in 2011 through September, 21.5% had been returned to the correctional system. If you take that along with the recidivism rate figure, you'll see that if inmates are going to mess up and go back into the system, a pretty high percentage of them mess up pretty quickly that first year. And that obviously that's something that we're trying to address. What we try to do very briefly is give you a quick overview of some of the measurements we're using in this plan to really indicate where we are. And at this point, what I'd like to do is call on Governor Haslam to make some additional comments.
Thanks, Bill. So I haven't heard the numbers. I guess the question is, so what are we doing about it? Well, 2 or 3 things. The first is, like I said, we're taking a very much of a holistic approach to this, combining the efforts of law enforcement, local district attorneys, our mental health professionals to realize this is not a one silver bullet is going to solve the issue in Tennessee. Second thing is we did, thanks to many of your all's help, pass some substantial legislative action last year. One dealing with tougher sentencing for gang-related crimes, tougher sentencing for convicted felons caught with guns, and then increasing the mandatory time for jail time for repeat domestic violence offenders, which again, I look at a lot of you in this room who had been urging us to, or wanting the state to do that for a long time, and thanks to your help, we got it done. We also now have a database where drug prescribers and dispensers check as a way to keep controlled substances away from those with histories of abuse. But we obviously, and the reason you all are all here today is we recognize we have a lot more work to do. Last year, domestic violence offenses made up 52% of the crimes against persons in Tennessee. And juveniles comprised almost 9% of the total arrests in Tennessee. Methamphetamine production, as Bill just said, continues to rise and continues to plague our state. Prescription drug abuse is a challenging problem across the state, and it's another area where, unfortunately, we're in the top or the bottom of the rankings when it comes to states, depending on which one is the worst. We have to continue to deal with this in broad, comprehensive terms, and what you have is our commitment to do that with you. We don't think the only response is just put more people in jail and leave them there for longer. At times we think that is right. Obviously we had some significant legislation which did that last time. But we realize there is, like I said, a multifaceted approach to this, and that is what hopefully you're going to be a part of a discussion about today, is how we do that in Tennessee. So again, I'm grateful that you're here. This is maybe the most critical thing that we're doing as a state now, is to attack, I think, what has been too big of a problem for too long. So with that, am I introducing the next, or are you going to introduce it? Okay, I'm going to turn it back to Commissioner Gibbons. We'll put this back in the hand of a trained professional, and Bill will take us from there. Thank you all again very much for being here today.